Here to discuss with us, Dan Schaefer of Schaefer Asset Management, Hillary Kramer from A&G Capital, and James Frischling, president of NewOak. James, this Siena rally is going to continue?
I do think it's going to continue for a little bit. I think households and institutions remain a little underinvested in stocks. I think the lower gas prices particularly creates a nice tailwind, puts more money in their pockets. Consumer doesn't mind oil right now. There's a whole other story about oil, especially if you live in Texas. But for the consumer, I think they feel good. Spending is up, and Christmas has just been, I think, going to be strong for the retailers, better than people expected.
So, Dan, if the retailers wake up and realize they missed a heck of a lot, are they going to show up then in January? And will 2015 prove to be much better than we thought?
I don't think so. I think that we're on the tail end of this experiment with the Federal Reserve. I think the retailers are going to be hit hard. I think the consumers are not really spending. The numbers are not matching what they're talking about, especially in the media.
Right.
And I really feel that, and I spoke to you about this many months ago, when the early stages of a deflationary depression and oil prices, we had gold prices collapse, we had oil prices collapse, the grains collapse. The bond market keeps signaling a low interest rate environment for a long period of time, not just in the United States, but globally with Japan and Germany interest rates.
But let's talk about the consumer, Hillary, because those stocking stuffers took a toll on the middle class. Now, a new study finds that spending on Christmas gifts is actually up 35% since 1985, while median income has only grown 6.5%. So what gives? Are we just demanding more gifts, or are we charging it?
Well, we went to technology. Underneath a tree now are iPhones and televisions and laptops. And so that's replaced the gifts that might have just been a stuffed animal, especially for kids. Xboxes, for example. So that's caused the extra cost. But in many ways, it's actually good. It's just what we need for those retailers that we had more shopping, and it means maybe Santa will stay around.
They don't have the money for this.
They don't have the money for this. Actually, I'll tell parents right now, we got to find a way to rein this in. But the fact is, it's the sixth Christmas since the Great Recession, and I do think people generally feel better about the economy today, despite their, unemployment rate is lower now. Yes, wages are still flat, but there is this pressure I find for people to spend more and therefore digging into savings, or what little savings is taking place. And again, I'll reiterate, the lower gas I think did feed a little bit into the Christmas shopping.
I mean, at least maybe it made you feel good. How about this? Christmas turning into a tale of two Sonys. We had a promising one and a completely annoying one. Ask my son. Sony Pictures releasing The Interview to hundreds of theaters nationwide, selling out many showings. But the PlayStation Network is still down after yet another apparent hack. Probably doesn't help company morale that rival Xbox has already corrected the problem and is up and running again. So, Dan, Sony can't get out of its own way.
This is a very big problem. It shows you how delicate the situation is with the internet and communication for them to be able to knock out Sony's Xbox like this in today's society, with all this engineering and all this software to hunt these people down. I mean, they're even coming out of the woodwork and telling us exactly who they are that are doing it.
It's the Lizard Squad.
It's amazing. I mean, they could do this to the power grid.
But it's kind of, Hillary, my son plays Xbox and couldn't wait to open up his new games, and it's almost mean, because it's kids that you're hurting if you're taking out PlayStation and Xbox.
Right,
unless you guys play.
But we're all vulnerable. I mean, that's what this really proves, that cybersecurity has to be ramped up, but we are vulnerable, and everyone should take it as a cue and a lesson for the future. And in terms of Sony, what happens is, if you have executives who can write emails that are so despicable, like they did, that is eventually seeping down into a company.
I agree. James, does Sony recover?
They're going to recover, but unlike the Target attack and unlike the attack on JP Morgan, Target was able to get this behind them and now has rallied tremendously. This attack is not behind Sony.
No,
we're still trying to figure it out. So I still think there's it has a ways to go, and I do think they've been neglectful in not addressing the specific issue to PlayStation.
Right, they've been busy sending nasty emails out about their
to each other. All right, meanwhile, speaking of getting nasty, Russia embracing North Korea in the wake of this Sony hack, basically saying Kim Jong-un's anger at The Interview is, quote, quite understandable. And apparently what he did is okay. Vladimir Putin also dealing with problems of his own, canceling the New Year's holiday for government workers thanks to Russia's financial crisis. Putin explains his decision saying, quote, for the government, for your agencies, we cannot afford the long holiday, at least this year. You know what I mean. Do we know what he means?
This is a serious issue. They really are having a financial struggle in Russia, and they're going to start to look at their neighbors who are not friendly with the United States to help them out of this. And this is for this continue now from January 1st to go on to try to solve this Russian problem is showing us that it's not just the oil collapse that's a problem. There seems to be some other underlying issue, and they're just going to start to gang up on the United States.
But James, he doesn't have a rabbit to pull out of his hat. He's got oil and nothing else.
You know, I agree with Dan's point. First of all, the friend of our enemy is our enemy.
Sure.
So that's what's one thing. Two is I was curious. I was actually almost grateful to see him actually talk about Putin. Talk about government mishap, government mismanagement as one of the three issues. Oil being the second, and obviously sanctions from the West being the third. But you're right. They have nothing to pull out of their hat. Oil is what they've got, and tension here is going to grow. And this is one of the big geopolitical stories to watch going into 2015.
So Hillary, does this bleed into the United States?
Not at first, and we should be fine because assets are just fleeing out of Russia into Switzerland, which had to go negative on their interest rate, and into the United States. I think that's one of the reasons also why we have Santa here, all that money coming in.
We'll take it, that's for sure. All right, finally, no Santa here, though. One gentleman having himself a very merry little meltdown at LaGuardia Airport. But who is not melting down at LaGuardia Airport, I ask you? An American Airlines passenger flying into a rage after several employees had the audacity to wish him a Merry Christmas. The man was eventually removed from the flight. It was delayed by like 40 minutes, but they eventually took off. Oh, I understand. Not everyone celebrates, but, you know, it's happiness. Isn't it almost like saying have a great day?
You know, and I've experienced this a lot. You know, it's like having a great day, but when people fly, it's a very nerve-wracking experience.
Especially around the holidays.
That's why there's a lot of bars by the entrances to these in the airport as you walk in. I mean, when somebody's upset and they're ready to get on an airplane and you can aggravate them in a moment, that's what happened. And I've seen it. I've been in situations where people have argued right in front of me and my kids.
If Merry Christmas is going to set you off, James, God, I don't even want you on my flight.
I just want to say, I want to defend Christmas here. This man did not get kicked off the plane because of Christmas. He got kicked off the plane because he's a hole.
Okay, then. Hillary, I mean, we should be able to say Merry Christmas.
We absolutely should. We should realize that this isn't about, we don't need to be so sensitive to all this political correctness. The spirit is to have a good, happy day, regardless of your religion.
Part of it, too, though, is he's aggravated. He's probably broke. He can't afford all the Christmas gifts he needs or holiday gifts he needs to buy his family, so he's just angry at the world.
He's probably heading somewhere he didn't want to go.
There's that. He's going to his mother-in-law's, and he's not going to get any food on the flight. What could be worse? Thank you guys so much. You guys will be back.